We ask the questions. What is needed in the world?
Will there finally be peace in the southern Philippines? In just a few weeks, the government's expected to sign a final agreement with the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, or MILF, creating a semi-autonomous area in Mindanao called Bangsamoro. This after 40 years of fighting and 15 years of negotiations. It's a landmark event, not just for the Philippines, but beyond. Many believe there are lessons here. How to deal with armed insurgents, and how to deal with the human sacrifice involved. Hundreds of thousands of people were killed here during the conflict. But there are concerns about the final peace deal. There's a split between the MILF and the other Islamic insurgent group, the Moro National Liberation Front. Will they be working together now in the new state? Do they want to? And what kind of society will take hold here? A pure Islamic state? What will happen to Christians living here? And then there's the current conflict in the Malaysian state of Sabah. Some say Islamic fighters from Mindanao are involved, potentially jeopardizing the final peace deal, which is being brokered by the Malaysian government. To answer all these questions, we decided to seek out the man who's now leading negotiations on behalf of the fighters, the head of the MILF in Mindanao, Murad Ibrahem. Chairman Murad, so much has happened since we last spoke, most significantly, of course, in October when you went to Malacanang, the presidential palace, up in Manila in the north. It was your first time there. What was it like to sign this framework agreement?
Well, it gratifies us because we have been negotiating for more than 16 years, about 16 years.
And not just negotiating, fighting as well.
Negotiating and fighting at the same time because, you know, the peace process and the armed struggle is complementary. And the achievement of the peace process is the achievement of the armed struggle.
How do you know that you achieved some of these gains through armed struggle that you could not have achieved through peaceful means?
Well, in all the process of the peace process, the armed struggle is always a component because when at times the peace process cannot move forward, then we have to go back to armed struggle. And so it is always a component. So we see that what has been achieved in the peace process could equally be an achievement of the armed struggle also.
There are other struggles going on around the world that perhaps people could look at what you've achieved in Mindanao and gain some insights into how to handle their own struggles. Can you tell us what were the crucial elements for this agreement to come together at this time?
We always believe that political settlement through negotiation is the solution to the problem. The armed struggle is only a means in order to push forward the peace process. But finally, we always believe that the negotiating table is the final solution to the problem.
But wasn't there also the crucial element of the political will from the Philippine government's side, particularly that gesture of President Aquino's meeting you in Japan?
Well, that is a significant happening because at least it built the trust and confidence between us and the president. So if you recall it, it was after our meeting that the peace process started to move forward.
Was that a matter of confidence, a matter of trust that was built at that moment? Or did he say something to you specific that got things moving?
No, I think it gives us the one-on-one talk with him gives us the opportunity to express on our side, express our own way of solving the problem. What is our aspiration and how are we going to solve the problem? And on his part also, he also explained to us what is his intention. So, and how is his idea to achieve the solution to the problem. So it gives some sort of meeting of minds in how to move forward in the peace process.
So now that you're nearly there, we have the framework agreement in place. There are some final negotiations of very important things still, though, being bargained over.
Yes.
Do you have an idea what this new political entity, the Bangsamoro entity, is going to change in people's actual lives living in this region? Will they become richer, poorer? Are Christians worried? Should they be worried?
What we see is the real change must come from the people. It is an internal process. So we are just giving the framework agreement will just lend an environment where people can struggle to change. That is why we always emphasize to our people that the change is not coming from outside. It has to come from inside. So we have to continue our struggle. But this struggle is now in a different level because it has to be a more difficult and a more complex struggle. So we see that with the framework agreement giving us at least the power to determine our political future and give us a chance to effectively create change from ourselves, then we can move forward. But all this also depends on how the people will struggle for change.
That's a rather kind of spiritual interpretation of the change that
Yes.
you're describing a spiritual kind of a level.
Yes.
And speaking of that, what would be the role of Islam in the Bangsamoro?
We will continue to advocate Islam as a way of life because we always believe that the Bangsamoro people, being Muslims, will progress, will have a better chance of progressing under the concept of Islam. So we will continue to advocate Islam as a way of life, as an instrument for change, and as a means to progress.
What does that mean for Christians or indigenous people?
We do not intend to let them accept Islam as a way of life, but then we are going to prove to them that Islam is not it's not anti-Christians or anti-non-Muslim, but it is an all-embracing religion that can live with Christians, that can live with other religions.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
But even within the Muslim community, there are sharp differences. Murad's group is actually a splinter group from the Moro National Liberation Front led by Nur Miswari, now a bitter rival. And it's Miswari's group that's been recognized internationally by the Organization of the Islamic Conference as the representative of Philippine Muslims. What about the differences that are found within Muslims in this region? Because there are a lot of ethnic groups, tribes, and a lot of disagreements politically amongst different clans. You have a lot of blood feuds that go on that have been a source of immense trouble here. You also have rival political liberation front, the Moro National Liberation Front, led by Chairman Nur Miswari, who has said that he does not agree with the Bangsa Moro framework agreement.
Well, it is natural for people to have difference of ideas. But then, ultimately, I think the one means in order to achieve understanding is through dialogue and exchanges of ideas. So the MILF is opening itself for a continuous dialogue, continuous advocacy, and continuous opening of our door for talks.
But in a separate interview, Nur Miswari told us he doesn't even want to talk with the MILF.
These are instruments of Malaysian colonialism, the MILF. It was organized by them because they succumbed to the entreaties of Malaysia. It's Malaysia that is pulling the string behind them. I'm sorry to say this. I hate to, reveal this or expose this.
Well, that is the view of Miswari, but it doesn't mean that the other group of people in the area, even the other MNLF leaders, have the same view with him. In fact, he has already agreed through the facilitation of OIC that we are going to form a Bangsa Moro coordinating forum under the OIC. We have signed an agreement in Dusambi in the ICFM.
So you don't see this as a serious threat to your project going forward?
Yeah, because the OIC have been assuring us that the MNLF under Miswari will be cooperating in order to achieve the final objective of the Bangsa Moro people.
Another potential challenge to the implementation of the peace agreement is how will natural resources be managed? Ordinary people worrying whether they would benefit from exploitation of natural resources, how much would go to the Bangsa Moro entity, how much would go to the Philippine government?
Presently, we are discussing this, our panel is discussing this on the annex on wealth sharing. And initially, there has been already some kind of understanding that this area would be concurrent between the Bangsa Moro government and the central government. But then we are not yet through on the sharing, but it is in favor of the Bangsa Moro government. So hopefully this will be settled as soon as possible. There's already some kind of
what's the overriding principle that the negotiators, at least on your side, are keeping in mind when they're negotiating this?
We always see that because this is a very important element in the progress of the Bangsa Moro. So the management should be with the Bangsa Moro, and the share from it will be more for the Bangsa Moro.
I think I already saw an article that where it said something that Petronas, the Malaysian state-owned company, would be welcome to invest in Mindanao once the Bangsa Moro entity is there. Can you tell us what's behind that?
Well, it's not only Petronas, but other companies also may, because it will be open for foreign companies. We know that we do not have the capability to effectively explore our natural resources, but as long as it will be for the benefit of the Bangsa Moro, largely for the benefit of the Bangsa Moro people.
How can potential foreign investors be sure, though, that their money is going to be safe, as it were? I mean, it's all very well, this negotiation going on with the people who are running the MILF at the moment, and we have a very committed president in Manila. But what if everything changes?
Well, we always call upon the investors. We say that we have to wait first until the comprehensive agreement is in place. Because once the comprehensive agreement is in place, then there will be institutionalization of the process. So even though another president will come in, as long as this comprehensive agreement is already institutionalized, then there will be no changes, because it becomes a law of the land. It could be accommodated by the Constitution.
Which makes this current period extremely important.
Yes.
You only have a small window of time, really, a few years,
Yes.
in order to institutionalize the
Yeah.
agreement. But there are a lot of people who want to sabotage it.
In particular, people are getting nervous about what's happening in the Malaysian state of Sabah. For some Philippine Muslims, it's part of their heritage that they want back from Malaysia, which has administered the area for decades. But why did those gunmen risk going to Sabah now?
Well, we hope it is not linked to the peace process, because this issue has nothing to do with the peace process. But as of now, the MILF maintains a no comment stand, because we are more focused on the peace process, and we do not want to complicate the peace process with this issue, because we feel that this is a separate issue from the peace process.
It would seem to be a separate issue, but if I may press you a little bit on this, the thing is that there's a question about the credibility of the process itself that is brought into question, because the hypothesis from people who do not trust the process you're in that is that the Moro Islamic Liberation Front has chosen not to follow the Philippine claim to Sabah in exchange for this agreement.
No, basically, this is a non-issue, because it is not part of the negotiation. You will recall that even in the 1976 peace agreement, 1996 peace agreement of the MNLF, there was never a mention about Sabah, about this Sabah claim, because it is not part of the peace process. Is between the Bangsamoro people and the Philippine government. It has nothing to do with the issue of Sabah claim or Sarawak claim. So you will notice that in all the past peace processes, 1976 peace process, 1996 peace process, there was no ever mention about Sabah claim or whatever. So why only now that they're trying to say that the framework agreement did not mention about the Sabah claim and so on. Yeah.
Can you talk more about how you got to this point? What support have you had from the rest of the world? We have an international audience, and they may not realize that there's been a lot of support from other countries in the Islamic world.
Well, you know, during the peace process, as early as 2003, we have already opened up for a small-scale rehabilitation and development program. This is because we feel that as early as when we have the peace process, then there must be some movement in the ground. There must be some peace-building process in the ground. So we were happy because the international community, World Bank, even the United Nations agencies and other countries like Japan, have assisted, have helped us in as early as 2003, when the Bangsamoro Development Agency was agreed upon to be established. Then we have been engaged in a small-scale development program.
How about going back? I mean, you yourself said that the peace process goes part and parcel with armed struggle. How about international support for the armed struggle? If I might bring Malaysia in again, has Malaysian support been very important to the MILF?
The role of Malaysia has been very significant, because it was only during the facilitation of the Malaysia that the peace process have moved forward.
Well, there are conspiracy theories about that.
Well, the people, we cannot avoid people to think about this, but then it is natural that as facilitator, Malaysia will do its part in order to push the peace process. That's a normal situation, because they are the facilitator. And when Malaysia came as facilitator, it was not a voluntary act of Malaysia, but they were invited by the Philippine government during the administration of Arroyo to facilitate the peace process.
There are those who say that the MILF, through the armed struggle, was formed by Malaysia as an instrument of its own agenda in Mindanao.
The MILF came from the MNLF. We were together in the MNLF, all together. We were in the MNLF in the starting 1972. When the MNLF was formed, we were part of the MNLF. We separated from the MNLF in 1978 and formed the Moro Islamic Liberation Front. So it was not a making of Malaysia. It is an internal development in the MNLF.
But Chairman Noor of the MNLF says that this was set up by Dr. Mahathir, the former Prime Minister.
During the time when Malaysia came in, we were never recognized by Malaysia at the time when we split from the MNLF. It was only when the recognition came only during the invitation of Arroyo to Malaysia to come in as facilitator. They never recognized us. Starting from 1978, when we split from the MNLF, Malaysia and other OIC member states never recognized the MILF. So it was only in 2001 that Malaysia started to recognize us upon invitation of the Philippine government. So we have no relation whatsoever with Malaysia when we have the MILF.
Let me ask you, looking back at your career, there was a time when you were a fighter, just
Yes.
like the boys that we can see here on your camp, Darapanan.
Well, yes.
Now you're visiting Malacanang Palace and the leader of the group. So much has changed for the people in Muslim Mindanao, and yet, in a way, very little has changed.
Yes.
So what does this moment mean to you?
Well, this is a moment of a more difficult and more complex struggle ahead. We recognize the challenges ahead. That is why we always say to our people that it doesn't mean that the struggle is finished. We have to move ahead when we have to make sure that we succeed, because it is now in our hands that we succeed. So this is a very situation now is a very critical situation to the Bangsamoro people.
The future is in your hands.
Yes, the future is in our hands.
Thank you very much indeed, Chairman
Thank you very
Murad
much.
of the Moro
Yes.
Islamic Liberation
Thank you
Front,
very much.
for talking
Thank you
to Al
very much.
Jazeera. Thank you.